Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Vergne Board of Zoning Appeals, March the 25th, 2025. It's 5:30 p.m. We do have a quorum. If you would like to please review the order of business. Number one, approve the minutes for the November 26, 2024 meeting. If you have read them and there's no changes, I'll take a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve the minutes for November 26th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
The meeting's carried. On to new business. First of all, I'm going to turn over to the city's legal department for their comments, please, if you would.
Thank you, Graham. I just wanted to mention to everyone that tonight we are acting in our quasi-judicial capacity, and there is a court reporter here that's going to take down everything that's said. So if everyone could please remember to speak clearly, try not to speak over one another, and be respectful of her because she has a very difficult job of keeping track. And so in order to make that a little bit easier, just be mindful of that as we go through tonight's process.
Mr. Logan, if you go for your report, please, if you would. Let me qualify that. New business, let me read it out to everyone to understand. Appeal the decision of the building official, property located at 535 Old Nashville Highway, tax map 118I, Group B, Parcel 29, C2, Highway Service, Zone District, property owned by Glenn Warnick. Mr. Logan, have a report, please.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and direct everybody's attention to the screen, and I'll show this property, the location of the property on the map and the zoning map. So there, laser here. So this is a property in the middle of the screen. This is Old Nashville Highway that goes diagonally across the image. And then this is Blue Valley Drive that runs roughly north and south. And the property, you can see, these are all vehicles and storage of vehicles. Let me move in closer. So again, this is Blue Valley that runs north and south. And then Old Nashville Highway's here to the bottom left. And then you can see the building, the roof where I'm pointing here, the dark roof. And there are some other buildings on the property. Here's one of the buildings to the north of the main building. And then as you go up Blue Valley on the left or west side of the road, you can see this storage area with vehicles as well. So there's a storage lot to the north with vehicles, and then there's, of course, all of the storage of vehicles as you move toward Old Nashville Highway. So this is a zoning map. Just a little here. So this red color is for C2, that's Highway Service Commercial zoning. So you can see the red there, and then the orange color here to the east and southwest. Orange is R1, which is low density residential, and then there's green scattered also to the north up Blue Valley and also down Cheney. That's also residential, which is R3 high density. But again, red, which is C2 commercial, that's the zoning for the subject property tonight. So here's a photo. You can see the sign here for Blue Valley Road. So this shows the current storage there, storage of vehicles on the property. And you can see Old Nashville Highway just to the left and the pavement for Old Nashville Highway coming into view. And then in this photo, Old Nashville again is here, the pavement on the bottom left. And then this is vehicles that are stored outside here on the property. And then this yellow building in the distance is also on the property. And then this is just the application that was submitted by the applicant, which is in your packet. And if you have any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer those. And that completes the report at this time. I'll turn it back over to Chairman Coates.
Thank you. Is any representative here this evening to represent this applicant? If you would, please step to the podium and raise your right hand to be sworn in, please. Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, to help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
David Morrell Driggers.
Good. And sir, give me your name and address for the record, if you would mind. Are you representing this gentleman?
My name's Tom Reed. I'm a lawyer in Murfreesboro.
Okay. Address, please, sir.
1535 West Northfield Boulevard, Building 8, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 37129.
Thanks, sir. Would you like to comment on your application and what Ms. Logan said this evening, or just go through some of the things?
Should I comment?
Sure. Well, we're going to introduce some exhibits and go through them, but Mr. Driggers has been operating from this property since 1994. He's had car sales, a repair shop, a tow service, and that started in 1994. The dealership opened in about 1995, 96, and it's been operating continuously. He's had a repair shop there. That's one of the requirements under state law for a car dealer to have a garage and mechanic shop. And he's had one continuously. The matter, he could not actually get a state license without a letter from the city saying that it was a lawful use in a C2 zone. And in some of the exhibits you'll see tonight, it's just an example of one of the letters that's been written on behalf of Mr. Driggers by the city. There was a matter that came up in 2003. At that time, in 2003, Mr. Driggers had his tow service impound lot on Old Nashville Highway, and he wanted to move it to the back, to the rear of the property. And so the codes enforcement officer at that time said he couldn't move it. So there was an appeal made, and in the course of that hearing and in the course of that appeal, the minutes of this body recognized in 2000, this would have been a March of 2004 meeting, but the minutes of that meeting acknowledged that he's operating car sales and a car repair service. And it doesn't get much stronger than that. But there's been, I know that some of the issues, Mr. Bo Logan called the cars out in the picture as being stored there. That's not the case. This is a sales lot. Cars are parked there, but they're for sale. And the impound lot is in the back now, and it's properly screened, and shouldn't be any issue there. Now, I know the letter says that Mr. Driggers is improperly storing stuff at this site, but and it says you can't. The letter says you can't store anything in a C2 zone. However, the city code that's cited has no application because it's dealing with abandoned items, not matters that are for sale or an impound lot. If you look closely at your zoning ordinance, which we're going to go through here in a moment, you'll see that it's stated expressly in Section G of the zoning ordinance dealing with C2 zones that storage is permitted. it expressly states that it's permitted as long as it's not in the front yard. And then the letter cites a federal fire code that certainly has no application. It has to do with, I don't believe the gentleman that wrote the letter has ever read that statute or the code, because it deals with a tire rebuilding facility. And nobody's ever asserted that he's building tires there. And I've given you an excerpt of that statute as well. But we'll work our way through it. Let me hand out some stuff here.
Thanks.
You wrote the letter, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did, okay. I'll give you one then.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Before we get too far down the road, I'm going to file a copy of the 1990 zoning ordinance that was in effect when Mr. Triggers opened his business. Can you state to the board the history behind this zoning ordinance?
So I had originally was going to start my.
If you would just,
I'm
to
sorry.
the speaker.
So I was originally going to have my dealership in Antioch, and we went through the hurdles of Metro, and every time we had something done, something else changed. So I learned to get the zoning ordinance. So at the time, this was kept at the library before the city took control of the records. And so I made a copy from the library the year that I came here in '93 to start preparing to open the dealership, in '94. Or '94, I'm sorry, to open in '95.
Okay, I'm going to pass this. Who's going to keep the records of this meeting?
I'll keep them, sir, but I'll take it from you.
Very well.
Thank you.
So, when did you start your automobile tow business and repair business?
It was originally in Murfreesboro in '91,
And
91, 92. And I moved to Laverne in '94 to get the lot ready. We still had the facility in Murfreesboro at the time. We moved to, and so we were getting ready to get, there was a checklist to get ready for the dealership. And so as we got those things in order, I think we opened up in '95 in the Laverne place, and that's where we started all operations there at that time and ceased everything in Murfreesboro. At the commercial address, we still had another shop behind my house that we used some in Murfreesboro.
And do you own the property where you are?
No, I have leased from Miss Warnack for the last 31 years. I was just on my way back from Nashville when I noticed the property. And I lived in Murfreesboro right off Old Nashville Highway, and so I just passed by it, and it just happened that Metro was giving us a hard time, and this popped up, and I met with Mr. Hicks, the codes director at the time, and got the authorization that, yeah, we were zoned for it, and kind of went over everything, what our plans were, and it was okay. And then I met with I spoke with Larry Brown, was our investigator for the Motor Vehicle Commission. He came out and did our site inspection, wrote our license at that time. The first bad encounter we had with the city was with the Mr. Haley. Mr. Haley showed up one day and said, well, I'm here to put you out of business. And this is the first encounter I had with Laverne other than Mr. Hicks. And he didn't realize that we had gone through the proper steps to open up. He just happened to see us there with cars for sale. So over the years, it's been a roller coaster. We're left alone for a few years, and then we're back under the screws for a few years. So 25 years ago, we were out of business at the towing service for 11 months with this board while the city kept putting it off every month for 11 months. And then we actually had it heard and we were back in business. And that lasted for a while, other than some negotiation with the city concerning the fencing and where we could put it and where they didn't want it put.
Let's work our way through these documents. I think that it might be more orderly.
Okay.
These documents that you have before you, they've been bait stamped, they're numbered. So what are pages 2 and 3, Mr. Drigger?
This is our tax application. Sorry, this is from 95. I think this is Trigger. This is for the dealership. Well, I don't know where the number is on that one. Is this the same number for both of them?
Page 2 and page 3, yeah.
And this is, bear with me, RT. When we opened up, there was I think these are both the dealership.
It's just one document.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had to get a county license and a city license. So some of this was done at the county, and then some was done with the state, with the state license.
You see that date on this application?
I can barely see, I'm sorry. Is it 95, 1995?
Right,
Yes.
it speaks for itself.
Yeah, that was the dealership license.
December 8, 1995.
Yes, sir.
Pages 4 and 5? Is
So
that,
the first of,
and maybe 6, I guess.
so that one of these is, I had 2 copies of this. I think one was when we were gonna get the license in Metro, and then the second was when we got with, Mr. Brown and got a follow-up to make sure nothing was changed, for the requirements to have to get the dealer's license.
Okay. Is one of the requirements, number 11 on the requirements, is that a requirement that you have a
Yes,
garage
sir.
facility?
That we have a garage facility, and our business model was to buy broken cars, repair them, and sell them. And so the servicing of the customers, which is the service garage, was utilized as the shop that we were using to repair the cars as well.
But did the,
It was required to get the license to have the facility or to have a contract with another facility that was off-site.
have you ever had a contract for
No,
another site?
No, so we've always done our own, in-house.
Okay. Is this page 6, a checklist where,
This was the checklist when Mr. Brown came out, and he just checked off the things as we had them when he wrote our license. He actually brought his license with him, and he wrote us in that day, and then we got other stuff through the mail.
this page 7, is that your first license?
I believe it is. The license is a 2-year license, so when you get it, it's good for 2 years. Your bond is for 2 years. Everything's on a 2-year schedule. This would have been the first one in 95, which had expired in 97.
Expired what date? Can you see that?
12/31 of 97.
Page 8,
So this is the Rutherford County clerk. This is how they helped us to do our taxes. Since there's 2 tax rates, there's one for retail sales and there's a tax rate for repairs. So we had to tell them what we estimated the percentages were that we would do repairs opposed to sales. And it's connected together, but it used to be it was done quarterly and they had different filing times. The annual for each thing was a different thing. So it's not like January to January annually. It was like June to June for sales, July to July for repairs. So it was a little different, a little more complicated. They've streamlined it now, but we had to tell them what we thought and keep track of that.
When you say repairs, do you mean repairs to existing vehicles? or-
Repairs for customers and for the cars we broke to fix and sell.
Was the county of Rutherford understanding that you were talking about fixing cars that did not work?
Yes.
Okay.
Pages 9 and 10. Maybe the same document, I guess, really. It's a tax receipt for
I
Laverne.
think this is,
This is bigger writing.
I think it is, or this must be the same number. It is the same number there, 8272. This is my business license for Laverne for the city.
And that was it in 1996 through 97?
This may have been my second. It looks like it's 96 and 97, so there should have been one before that. They didn't have the records to go back that far. This was just the copies that I could, find in my old records. The county and the city, they don't have any records that go back this far now. I only have the ones that I could dig up from my old records.
Page 11 and 12, what are they?
This was the original, our first year here, we had a area behind the office that we worked on cars. It was a carport. And we built a garage there and moved the carport back. So we got a building permit from Mr. Hicks to do that. And this is the building permit from 527 when we actually enclosed the garage and pushed the carport back for have more room to detail cars and do other work.
And that's dated on January 27, 1997?
Yes, sir.
This map, that's on page 13, is that the same property that,
It is the same property. This has actually got all of the addresses on it except for 519 is there beside it, which was our second building that this was a manufacturing facility when we came. It was micro manufacturing. They did manufacturing in the warehouses. So they were heavier zoning than our garage auto dealership. Before micro manufacturing, they built fiberglass boats here. So this was more industrial, but it was still classified C2 because there was a lot more things that you could do in C2 that long ago. C2 had light manufacturing in it. Back then, it doesn't now. Now it's industrial and some other zoning, but that's what it was. As a matter of fact, the city even reclassified us, our water billing, which came up at the last Board of Zoning Appeals 25 years ago, because it was more industrial in their eyes, and so they changed the water to industrial billing, and we had to get them to correct it back, because we were still C2 commercial instead of being manufacturing.
now, this 527 building, it's mentioned in the letter, but it wasn't mentioned by Mr. Logan. What took place, where was the impound lot originally?
The impound lot originally was behind 527, behind 519, and in between 535 and 111. And then it came up behind, we had all of this property behind here that stopped at the TVA lines. So the TVA lines were cut across the back of the property. And so whenever we were so closed up, that's why our original reason for being here is we wanted to expand under the power lines, and the city said that we couldn't. Wait a second, you're not even supposed to do this. But we were C2, it's just that they had changed it. I think 97, they changed the code, so you couldn't do what we were doing then. We actually rented to another towing service back in 99 that the city made move off of my property, which subsequently he sued the city for that and was awarded some punitive damages. He now operates in an agricultural zoning less than a mile from my facility here.
What business are you talking about, and what's the gentleman's name?
It's Earl Garvin, Easy Towing. So he used to rent the corner where you see on Blue Valley and Old Nashville. He rented that corner from me. Is where he started his towing service. The city made him move from there because they had changed the zoning is what they explained it to us. So he went and bought the property down there that's agricultural, and that's where he got his current towing service and vehicle storage and repair shop and all of that.
Was he at that 537 number?
He's at the corner where you see the 537. In the pictures where you see the fire truck, the fence right behind there is the start of the storage. From the fence forward, so when we had this discussion 25 years ago, they gave me a size for the storage lot under the power line. We had to do the measurements, and then after this was all said and done, there's a statute that says that you can't restrict it that way. So when I talked to Mr. Kelly after the fact, because we had some fence issues too. They gave me 30 days to put up the fence originally, which it took us more than 30 because of, I think, Hurricane Andrew, we didn't get the screening. Once we got the screening, we had it up, so they dismissed it, but we still had to pay the court costs from city court for not getting it up in the 30 days, which was a pretty good step to try to get it all done after trying to do it for a year.
But it was, were there two were there two tow services
There were.
on this property at
There
one
were.
time?
There were. I rented that corner to Easy Towing for his city rotation, and he was on just the corner, and the rest of it was mine.
And when he was forced to move, did he sue the city?
He did,
Did
and he won. He was, I think he was awarded about $100,000 because they let another tow service come in and see too. And that's why we were here at that time, because all the towing services are here. They put all the ones out except for they offered them non-conforming, which you'll see in the minutes. They offered them non-conforming businesses, and most of them didn't take it. Shane Draper just went to Murfreesboro. Easy Towing wasn't involved because he had already gotten his at his current location. That happened before they put everybody else out. Draper, which is where Tony Campbell is now in Old Nashville behind Advance. The other towing company was Tic Tac Towing, which is on Murfreesboro Road. He opened back up the next year. So a couple of them left, and a couple of them just kept doing what they were doing. There's several in the city now that are still operating that didn't beat that 97 break where they did change the code.
So what is this, page 14?
This is where I had to do the appeal or the request for the Board of Zoning Appeals for the application to put up the fence. We'd already moved some cars. We were trying to get a fence permit. So they wouldn't give us a fence permit until we came to the Board of Zoning Appeals and got permission to do what we were trying to do.
Well, did this application on page 15, did he deny you?
He did. He denied that he actually, what this did was when we asked to expand on the power lines, they said, they said, well, wait, you can't even do this. So not only they said we couldn't move it, they said you can't do it at all. So then that's why we're at the Board of Zoning Appeals to continue being in business. So ultimately they said, yes, I was right that we were doing it before the code changed and that we could continue and that we would, I lost my train of thought. That we could move it under the power lines, which was already open property that's in the same lot. It was just not being utilized. Okay. Most of under the power lines from here to Nashville, Metro impound lots under the TVA lot, that's pretty much the only thing you can do under the power lines is park cars. So it made sense at the time to utilize that to use the property. And it's at the back of the property, which was what one of the requirements were to have open storage in C2 zoning, is it had to be on the back. So me and Mr. Kelly, 4 months after the decision from the Boza Board, he agreed and said, as long as you put a partition, which we connected all the buildings, so you can't see from the front, everything's behind Old Nashville Highway. So you can only see the buildings. Everything from the buildings forward is retail sales. It's just display lot and places for customers to park.
Do you store anything on the old Nashville?
We store nothing. The only thing that's there's a fire truck that was Eddie George's float. It's a float. It runs. It's more of a landmark. The other car lots in town have one. It's just there, more like a landmark. Go to the fire truck, and that's where we are. It doesn't have to be there. I've offered to put a tag on if they wanted to. It's really not for sale per se. I would probably sell it if somebody gave me the right money, but it's something. It's the only thing that sits there that's not for sale.
Okay, so you appealed it to this body,
Yes, sir.
and it was heard on November the 11th, I believe, is what the date on these minutes show, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. If the minutes for that November 11 meeting is pages 16 through 21, but the part dealing with Mr. Triggers is on page 20 and 21. So if you look at, can you see well enough to
I can.
read the second paragraph there?
Mr. Driggers currently operates a garage and car sales lot on this property. He stated that he is already operating tow service to his customers. He's towing his customers' car to the lot, fixes them, and the owners come and pick them up.
And on the vote that day, did they vote to grandfather you in and allow you to move and continue operating a tow service?
So the first time we were in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, they had their own discussion, and then when it came time to make the motion, they agreed, and then someone attempted to make a motion, and Ms. Mosley was on the Board of Zoning Appeals at the time. She stopped them from making the motion. She said, you don't have to, you've already given it to him, he's already won, and he said, so they didn't make the motion, and then we were doing Robert's Rule of Law back then. And
Excuse me, but
I'm sorry.
Isn't there a motion here?
the second time, this was 11 months later, so that's how they continued this for 11 months. The first time we had it heard, they tried to make the motion, and they wouldn't, and Cena didn't let them, so we went home that day, congratulations, Mr. Driggers, good luck, keep it clean. And then the next day, Mr. Kelly came to the office and said, man, they should have made that motion. Since they didn't make that motion, that didn't really count last night. So now we're gonna have to put this off till next month. So then we went through, the attorney was David Bowman back then. We went through 2 or 3 attorneys, so over an 11-month period, they had me out of business, not to be able to do anything. So 11 months later, I put the tape in from the first meeting for the board for I think there may have been even some new members. And they agreed and said, yes, you're right, and they made the motion 11 months later that they tried to do the first time.
Okay.
And
Well,
that's what this one was.
well, on November the 11th, they approved something. it looks
That's when they
like.
approved it, when we finally had it, 11 months later is when they approved it.
Okay. Then you've got, did you go get a fence permit then the next day?
I did get a fence permit,
That's
and
32 and 33?
so they wouldn't give us an address for the fence permit originally until we had this discussion at the Board of Zoning Appeals and had that settled, and then they added that was gonna be 113 Blue Valley. Once this was settled, and they said, yeah, the storage lot could be there.
Can you explain, at the end of November 11th on 2003, there's a statement that says, we did not say he could operate a tow service there. We did not give him permission to operate a tow service there. The only thing this board gave him permission to do tonight was to take back his existing business from the front of his property and move it to the back. Exactly what are you saying happened that day?
That day, they made the vote to approve the storage lot, is what they did that day.
So let me just qualify that. That doesn't reflect that in these minutes, correct?
It does reflect in the minute.
So at the moment, the...
They put the stipulations, oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, sir, let me speak. So we're looking at page 20, number 5. Is that one we're referring to?
Right.
Okay. So if you look at the minutes, a motion was made by Carl Black, seconded by Senator Mosley, to deny the request and uphold the decision of the City Codes Department, failed on a roll call vote. Okay, fair enough. So what you must do, as far as we're concerned, is have another vote, which must get a majority vote to pass through. And I don't see that in these minutes.
This is the wrong minutes. This is one of the other meetings. Ultimately, they did vote and pass it.
Do you have those minutes, sir?
I don't have them.
Okay.
They do exist, and I have the tape.
No, notice, sir, just move on. We just try.
So this is obviously going to be the wrong one because we're here 11 months in a row. It was eventually passed, and that's what stopped this. And then they came out and gave me a ticket for not getting the fence screening up in the 30 days, which we complied with before the next 30 days.
Do you know, sir, that the date of the meeting when allegedly it was approved?
I have it in my stack of papers this big. It's going to be the last meeting that I was in here for 10 years. That's the last time I was with the Board of Zoning Appeals. I do have it, but we had 11 months worth of them together. It's something I can get to you. It's something that was approved. That's why we have the fence. We've been in compliance ever since. This is just the wrong vote that we have in front of us.
Excuse me. The issue of towing is not even part of this hearing tonight. That's not part of it. That's not part of the letter that we're appealing from. The reason these minutes are included is because on November the 11th, 2003, this body, in its minutes, expressly states Mr. Driggers currently operates a garage and car sales lot on this property. Now, we're here tonight because this, the codes official is saying he's got to stop repairing cars. You know, but he was, he had a garage that was recognized in 2003 by this body. Nobody, the issue of towing is not, the reason we don't have minutes is because that's not before the board tonight.
This was one of the minutes from the conversation they talked about the garage. This wasn't the one where they made the vote to pass the towing service. This was where they acknowledged that the codes department, that I had 2 or 3 garages there that worked on cars. But this wasn't the time that they had the vote. This is just when they talked about the garages on the property, which is what we're here for today.
Understand. Continue on, sir. Let's keep going through this packet.
Okay, sure. Now, we mentioned that the city has to write a letter saying that it's a lawful zone.
Yes, sir.
For you to have a car set lot. Is, looking at page 24, is that an example of what you would
It
have?
is. We incorporated, I believe, in 2010, and we had to get a new license and under the corporation, and they gave a new letter. I don't have the original letter that they would have given for us to present to the state, but this is the letter from when we incorporated. We would have had the same type of letter to get the license originally. I just couldn't put my hands on that one.
So, and then in 2013, what happened to cause you to get this stop work order?
2013, we were replacing the roof of the 527 address. And we had gotten the permit to do that the year before the flood. So we had already had the footer inspection, all that stuff done, but we had to stop and go work on the restaurant because it flooded in the 2010 flood. So we spent our time working on that and we came back to this. And then when we were working on this, the codes came out and said, you got to get a permit. I showed them my permit and said, well, this one's expired. You need to renew it. So we went and renewed the new permit. But this was because originally in the first letter, they said that the 527 the office trailer wasn't legal or something. And so that's why I got this to show we've had 2 or 3 building permits for that same property over the years. It was there before, when I came to the town, so it was there long before me. As an existing address, we didn't have to get that address. It already had an address when we moved to Laverne.
Now, the letter from the November 21, I guess it is, that cites several different matters. One of them mentions a trailer, a mobile home.
We had an office trailer in front of, at the same address, in front of the existing trailer that we put there, and we got a permit and everything for it, and at the time, this would have been in the late 90s. The permit, we got it and set it up, and then come to find out it was a temporary permit, so it was only good for 18 months. So that came up during this time that we were down here at the Bozo Board for 11 months, and the city told us we had to move it, so we moved it. So it hasn't been there in 25 years.
The trailer that's there today, was it there?
It was the original trailer. The trailer that we moved was sat in front of it, and it was a commercial office trailer that we got it from Penske, I think, and it just looked more commercial, so that's what we put there. But we moved it whenever we found out it was a temporary permit, and the city said to move it, so we moved it. That would have been during the Jerry Kelly era when we were down here at the Bozo Board for that year.
Do you have, okay, let's keep going through this, then I've got a few more questions. So, pages 26 through 30, are these pages from the ordinance that
This is.
that we've
this-
already,
Yeah, this is from the zoning ordinances that was in effect when I came to the city, when I opened up my business.
right? And does it list, the name of this C2 zoning is Highway Service District. And does it mention automobile and other vehicular services and establishments as being permitted?
It does, and nowhere that I could find in that zoning map does it specifically say garage or mechanic shop anywhere in it. This is as specific as it got in the C2 zoning that was allowed. So it was allowed, so when I came in, that's what we did. That's what Mr. Hicks said that we could do. So that's why we built the garage there, to continue the same operations.
If we go over to page 30 and look at subsection G of this 5.053.2 section dealing with C2 zoning, does it indicate in G that outdoor storage is permitted?
It does, and Mr. Kelly brought that to my attention, that it all had to be on the back of the property, which is what he considered Old Nashville Highway being the front, because it's a corner, but he considered Old Nashville Highway being the front, everything else being the back, because it's a dead-end road. There's not a lot of traffic on it. So the back of the property was the building's back, and so we put partitions between each of the buildings so you can't see past what you see on Old Nashville Highway, which was the purpose of moving in some of that stuff to the back of the property anyway.
And then we look at pages 31 and 32. This is an excerpt from the same ordinance dealing with non-conforming uses. Does it, if you look on starting on line 10, can you read starting with the word lawful?
Lawful, non-conforming uses, established private property rights, lawful, non-conforming uses, buildings and structures existing at the item of the passage of, passage of this ordinance, or any amendments therein shall be allowed to remain subject to the following provisions. These provisions are applicable to a 11 use, is that right? Or the second use, is that 11 or 2? Use which are permitted within the districts in which they are located.
Okay. So is yours a lawful non-conforming use?
It is now, because the zoning's changed.
Right. Do you have anything, so cited in the letter that you received, it references, on page 33, we've got 13-105, open storage. It reads, "It shall be unlawful for the owner or occupant of a building, structure, or property to utilize the premises of such property for the open storage of any abandoned motor vehicle, icebox, refrigerator, stove, glass, building material, building rubbish, or similar items." Do you have anything that's abandoned on your property?
No, sir. Everything's in the transition from when we got it, what we're gonna do with it. It's not all just stored. It's gonna eventually go somewhere. Whether it may go to a scrapyard at some point, once we get our paperwork back on the autos. It just depends on the circumstances. But nothing's there to stay forever. It's all in transition.
And this letter also references, a section from the junkyard ordinance, which I don't, do you operate a junkyard?
No, sir. We don't sell any parts to anybody. We only use our parts ourselves. Like, say, if I buy a car that has a motor and we can put that motor in another car, and then we get rid of what's left.
So these provisions dealing with junkyards has no application to you,
I've never sold any parts.
okay? Let me find that letter again. Oh, and the letter also references the 2018 International Fire Code and references Section 3405 of that code. Now, that code deals with tire rebuilding and tire storage. Are you in the business of tire rebuilding and tire storage?
No, sir.
As far as the tires that you have and used in your business, where do you keep them?
We keep them, some are in box trucks, some are under a cover, they're never out in the weather.
Okay.
And the city's commented several times when they come do their tours how clean my property is.
Let me look at that letter again. Have you ever been ordered? This letter in item 3 says you've been ordered to remove trucks, semi-trucks, trailers, campers, buses, and vans from the property in its entirety. Do you know, have you ever been
I've
ordered?
never been. I've always sold box trucks and years ago, we tried to put I went to the city and asked if we could put a tractor trailer repair shop at 519. They said no, we just didn't. I do have one tractor trailer record that's on the site, but I mean, we don't really do anything with tractor trailers. The buildings were originally designed with loading dock doors, so they were designed to have tractor trailer trailers there. The tractor trailers that are there, we were addressed in the BOSA meeting 25 years ago, because they were on the property when it was in the county when it came into the city, because this was commercial property in the county before the city annexed it in the 80s. So these trailers were the trailers that had the building storage when they built the buildings, which is Ms. Warnack's. The codes department allowed us to put them, we had a 20-foot buffer at the back of the property, so you'll see them lined up across the back with 20 feet behind them, which we have a drive, for the 20-foot that they requested around the storage lot. And Cena Mosley actually sent a letter to TVA to make sure that, tried to get them to not be okay with it. They said they came out and did an inspection, said they didn't have a problem with it. So they were allowed to stay, and that became the back fence or the back buffer on the impound lot that is backed up to the Laverne mini storage.
All the trailers that are there were there when,
All of them are there that were there except for 2. I had 2 that we've interchanged. We took an old one out and put a new one in because it was in better shape. The rest of them are the same ones that were there from before. The campers and box trucks, we buy and sell. And some of the boxes, the original box we bought from Micro Manufacturing, when they left, we have it, it's full of tires now out of the weather. And we use that as a partition, to keep the view. It's more of another buffer in between the 2 buildings. And
What-
it's been there ever since. It was there when we had this discussion 25 years ago.
what's the history of item 6 on your letter from the city references fencing? What's the story there?
So
What's the
Jerry
history?
Kelly, originally, when we had this meeting 25 years ago, he did not want a fence on Blue Valley from the the fence was at the corner next to 537. From there, that entrance, all the way up to the 111 building was open. He didn't want a fence there because that's parking lot, the parking lot for the garage at 111, and this is a staging area where we park cars for the dealership. 2 years ago, Mr. Sawyers sent the codes guy out and said he wanted to put a fence up. So we put a fence up, and we put the white mesh on it. Then that was okay, but then they said they wanted a black mesh instead of a white mesh, which the original okay from the BOSA board didn't have a color, it just had screening. But the screening was on the back. So if you look at the back of the property, you can't see it. If you stroll down the very back of the property, there's about an acre of woods, cedar trees. So we didn't have to put screening there because you can't see anything through the cedar trees. They said that was enough buffer. Behind that is where the tractor trailers are. There was a buffer there, so you couldn't see anything there. The front was originally a screen fence, but it was hard to maintain. So they allowed me to put a metal fence up 3 months after we were in here. He allowed me to put a metal fence there. So the front, under the power lines, has a metal fence with a gate that's completely, we can't see to it. The new fencing is what you see pictures of, is what they've requested us to do just in the last 2 years, which we put up, but now the white fencing, they said wasn't opaque enough, they wanted the black. So we're putting black up once we're finished with this. The fencing's up, it's just not covered yet. And that was approved by Randolph Sawyers 2 years ago, because we had to run it by him to make sure it was okay with him for the material.
And then item 7 says complete sign surface maintenance. What's the history, story behind your sign?
So the sign was destroyed a couple of months ago. It blew the sign with the letters that you change out. We have a sign on the front of the building, so I've since bought another sign that we're just gonna replace. We tried to fix it, but it was just a little too tweaked up. The sign base is still there, but it's just the one that lights up and has the changeable letters, and it's just, when it blew the middle out, it kinda tweaked it, so it's just kinda flimsy now. So we have a new sign to put up in place of it that's just like it, it's just not tweaked. Which the sign, we never got a sign permit because it was already existing when I came there in 95 or 94. We just utilized it.
I believe we've addressed the points raised in the letter.
I just have a couple of questions
Sure,
related
sir.
to your packet, sir. Page number 2, it's the Tennessee Department of Revenue.
On page 2,
Page 2,
okay? See if I can,
Tennessee Department of Revenue Business Tax Registration Application. Just a couple of comments. There's no FEIN or social security number added. There's no fiscal year date. And section number 4, type of ownership, nothing is ticked or indicated. And more importantly, on page 3, it's not signed.
it's what now?
It's not signed, it's not executed.
No, it's not. That's the only copies we've got, though.
The county didn't have copies that went back that far. They just have that business was mine, that they didn't have any records where we could pull the old licenses up. The only licenses I could find are the ones that I have, but we were licensed in the county and the city in order to get the state license, because those were required, and that's what he checked off on our sheet. We used to have them on the wall, but that's been 30 years ago.
I understand, I'm just going off
Okay.
I'm just going off your packet.
Oh,
This, number 11, page 11, if you would, sir. Application for building and plumbing permit. At the very bottom of the page, it's starred. What does that say?
I'm trying to get to page 11. Everything's kind of out of order here.
So page 11, application for building
I'm
slash
sorry.
plumbing permit.
I should have stapled them, I suppose. Here we go. All right, there we go.
So very bottom of the page, below the signatures,
that's something that came directly from I had to pay.
I understand, sir.
Oh, no, I thought you were asking me about it.
My question is, what does the star and the verbiage handwritten dated 1/28/97 say?
They made me get an architect to draw plans and give them to them, which they submitted before we could do it. They went straight from the architect to the city. I requested that from the city. They said they don't have records of it. They didn't even have this building permit. But I never got it. They just sent it to them, they approved it, and they let us build it.
So for the record, it says need plans.
That was from the architect. And it wasn't planned, they made me get an architect to draw the plans and submit it to the city.
Do you have a copy of those plans, sir?
No, sir, that's what I'm saying. The city doesn't have them.
No, I'm asking you.
No, sir, he sent them straight to the city, and Dwayne Hicks approved it over the phone, told me I could build it.
So, okay. So let me just go back to it again. It says need plans. The city does not have a copy. You pay for those, I presume, to have them done, and you don't have a copy of those plans?
No, sir, not from 30 years ago. Like I said, I did, the city doesn't have this application for a building permit either.
I'm not debating that. I'm just asking straight questions.
So we didn't ever see it. It was just submitted to them, we had a handwritten that they said wasn't good enough. So they had to have an architect to draw it and send it to them, and that's what they approved it with.
Okay.
And then we built it after that. But then there's been another building permit issued and completed after that. There's another building permit with the footer inspection in '09, I believe, after preceding this, which is at the same property, on the same building.
Understand. Any other questions from the board members?
The last thing that I can find in this packet and what was submitted online, the last thing that shows that there was any business there is it expired in 2019, was the auto dealer license. Is there anything more recent? And I was looking for something in the
I
packet.
have a new license right now. We've had a license every year. I have my new one if you need it.
I don't know if we're allowed to check on
I mean,
I'm current. I've had a license every year. Now, when you get back to the old stuff, I only have the ones I have. So there's a couple of breaks, but it's mostly for the business license, not for the dealer's license, because they're 2 years. But I mean, I've had a license there the whole time. Some of them I don't have. The state and the county and the city, they don't hardly keep any of them. They only go back like 10 years. In 14, they did a lot of changing from keeping that, but I have a lot of my hard copies. They just bounce around a little bit. But I've got my current, and I've got sales every year for the last 31 years.
That's what I was asking.
I think that needs to be entered into our record now.
okay. So what you're indicating, sir, that you've had car sales since 1994, 95, which when you started,
95.
to 2025.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good to know.
So my question would be, is this a joint business?
It's
Because
a sole proprietor.
there's a line drawn through one of the names.
My brother was in it. He was going to be in it for the first year, and he didn't. So that originally my brother was going to be in it. He did not. It ended up being a sole proprietor from the very beginning.
Do you have the original that shows just your name on it?
No, because it was going to be, and he never was. So it's just my name. It's on the license, on the dealer's license has just my name on it. That was the same thing. It's just that he was going to be on it. I think that's the county.
City of Laverne.
Yeah. So eventually the state license and all the license were just David Driggers.
If you look at page 7, the state license is there on page 7. That was the first license. It was a 2-year license. It expired on 12/31 of '97.
Okay. So I believe we're referring to the City of Laverne's letter dated November 21st, 24. I believe you've addressed, or you've talked about number 6 and number 7. Let's talk about the first one, just so we can just talk through it. It says, cease and desist all auto mechanic work on vehicles at this location, in brackets, C2 Highway Zone District does not allow for heavy duty auto mechanic work. Comments on those, if you would, please?
In the zoning record, it is allowed. In my zoning record that I open my business under.
Okay, so you can, okay. Number 2, move an illegal vehicle storage to the back of the lot where it was approved. Per Boza, March the 9th, 2004, automobile storage was to be at the back of the lot, and the City of Laverne Municipal Code, Title 13, Chapter 3, Section 13.306, utilization of highway right-of-way. What's your
It is
comment
in
on
the back of the property. Old National Highway's the front, the back of the property is from the building's back, which is what Jerry Kelly authorized after the Board of Zoning meeting.
But is there any inoperable vehicle between the fence and the right-of-way, or in the right-of-way?
Those are inventory. Those are for sale. Those are customers' cars or customer parking.
And they all work.
Yes,
They all work, they all function.
yes. Some may need a boost or something like that, or a flat tire hit up, but they all run. They're all for sale.
Okay, number 3, remove, let's see. Remove all trucks, semi-trucks, trailers, campers, buses, and vans from the property in its entirety. Per Boza, August 10th, 2004. Time of business was approved to store only automobiles. Specifically, no trucks, vans, campers, semis are to be stored on this property. Your comment on that, please?
Those trucks have been there. They were part of the fence. They were allowed there then. We don't impound any tractor trailers or trucks. We don't impound those from the towing service. The ones that are for sale at the car lot are for sale. They've been for sale since the very first time I was there. I've sold box trucks and boom trucks and all kind of trucks. They're under the umbrella of the dealership.
Have they ever ordered you to not sell trucks,
No.
vans, campers, semis?
No, and they've been there in boats. I sell boats too, but that's been my business model since '95. Unchanged. The only things that are stored is the fence in the back and the existing trailers that were there, that they allow. We don't impound and store any trailers at the impound.
Okay, number 4, remove all tires, debris, and open storage from the property in its entirety. City of Laverne, 2018 International Fire Code, Chapter 34, Section 3405, and City of Laverne Municipal Code, Title 13, Chapter 1, Section 13.105, open storage.
So open storage was allowed, and it was allowed by Jerry Kelly as long as it's in the back of the property. In C2 zoning, in the ordinance, open storage is allowed at the back of the property.
The G section, I mean, the code section cited in this letter has no application at all to this business. None, zero. The C2 zone, the ordinance specifically expressly states in section G that open storage is permitted as long as it's not in the front yard. And it couldn't be plainer.
Thank you. Number 5, remove the unpermitted sales trailers from the property. Boza, June the 13th, 2000, building was approved temporarily while office was being constructed.
That's the office trailer that's been gone for 25 years. It sat in front of the 527 original trailer that's there now.
1st November 2024, so obviously the City of Laverne
Thinks
disagreed.
that the original trailer is the old trailer that's been gone for 25 years because none of these people were here then.
Okay, and I think we've addressed number 6 and number 7. Any other comments from this board? Is it anything else you'd like to ask? City staff, any comments, questions, or questions you'd like to ask the applicant?
When was the last time you sold a vehicle from your lot?
Last week.
Last week? Do you have any signage saying that you're an auto dealer?
It's over the top of the door. It was just inspected by the Motor Vehicle Commission 2 months ago.
Okay.
I'm inspected every year by the Motor Vehicle Commission since '95.
Any comments from the staff? Questions?
I'd like
I
to,
would just like to say, the city's position is that there was a storage lot approved on this parcel on Blue Valley Drive, under the power lines, and that is the only place that a storage lot was ever approved by this city. Everything else is
So after that.
immaterial to that.
Excuse me, sir, let them speak.
I'm sorry.
And so that's staff's position. Am I incorrect, codes officers? Help me out. Am I understanding correctly?
No, he's exactly right. It is our position that in 2004, he was approved to have a tow lot, and the minutes say Blue Valley Road, in the area back along the power lines back in there. Doesn't mention Old Nashville. It's also our position that there are junk cars there. We have photographs of junk vehicles, junk trailers on the property. It's also our position that the fencing is not adequate. It does not meet the ordinance. It is not solid. It is not non-transparent. It does not equal a buffer screen 2 as the ordinance states. It is simply a blue railing with nothing on it. You can see right through it. And our ordinance specifically states it has to be non-transparent. Solid.
Would you like to comment on that?
So the white screening is what they approved originally
Come on,
and
Tom.
had me take off. So the white screening, which I spent $3,000 on, was approved, and then they said you could see through it, but you can see through the black as well. Now they've asked me to put up black. I've ordered black. We're going to put up black just like they requested, just like every time they've ever asked me to do anything other than put me out of business. I've always complied with what the city's asked me to do. But then now they're saying, you're not supposed to have a garage there. They know good well I've had a garage there for 25 years. It's in the meeting minutes. But they want to pretend like there's not been 3 garages on that property so they can put them out of there. It's just not right.
Anything else, Steph?
I would also like to say that on what he's saying, I've took the liberty to copy every minute from every meeting that Mr. Drigger has been in, and I will hand those to you, and you will see that the black screening was requested back in 2004. It clearly states, with Drigger even asking, Mr. Drigger asked if he could tow cars, but just not trucks or vans. That was confirmed. He even asked the questions. This will be in the recorded minutes that I will hand over to you. And on the mechanic work, it was never approved. It's never been brought to planning to even say the heavy mechanic work could be done in a C2, only light.
It's in the minutes. It's in the minutes that the codes department admitted that there's 3 shops on the property. It's in the minutes. They acknowledge that. They've known it's been there. It's been inspected by the fire department only for the last 8 years, because the first 25 years they didn't inspect. But since they've been doing inspections, it's a shop. They acknowledge it's a shop. It's been inspected that way. It's been that way. It's been worked that way. It's appalling to me that they're trying to pull this now, knowing it's been there, and it was allowed to be there in C2 zoning according to the zoning when I came to the city. Approved by Dwayne Hicks, was the original codes director, and then followed up with Jerry Kelly when he tried to make me not store cars. And Randolph Sawyer's approved this existing fence with the white. They're the ones that changed it and said it couldn't be white, it had to be black. We have metal on Blue Valley Road, which was approved by Jerry Kelly, which we were given a ticket and came to court, fixed the fence with metal, and it was approved. One year, they even came out and said, this metal fence is different colors. You have to take it all off and turn it around. We did. We got a ticket, we paid the court costs, we flipped the metal to the other side. It's ridiculous to be this punitive over a property that's been paying taxes there for 31 years.
If good stuff, let me, seeing I'm the holder of the documents, I'd like to get those documents too, so we have them all as one entity. That'd be great.
Do I have
Appreciate
a
that.
copy?
Well, we'll make copies, so I mean.
And the trucks that we don't tow are tractor trailers.
Well, I had requested originally copies, and they didn't supply one.
I understand, so I'm just holder of all the documents. That's what I'm here to do, you know, we'll handle it appropriately.
So the context of the trucks, we don't tow tractor trailers. And in the original Tennessee guide, driver's license handbook, 2 ton and up is considered a truck or a van. It's not a van like a cargo van. It's a heavy duty 2 ton plus is tractor trailers, is what we were referencing it, that I don't tow or store.
Understand. Thank you. Is there anyone else here who wants to speak for or against, or any other comments on this appeal and decision of the Building Codes official? Any other comments? Anybody else want to speak? Legal, any comments? If you have any comments, if you would.
Sure, I could make some comments about the standard for considering a grandfathered use if you'd like. The standard is that 1, there has to be a change in zoning and restrictions, and 2, the land use was permitted prior to the change. That's per Abington Center LLC versus the town of Collierville. Additionally, the establishment or business has to be permitted legally be allowed to operate under the zoning regulations, or there have to be some exception that allows the use prior to the zoning change, and it cannot merely be due to a lack of enforcement on the behalf of the city, and that's Smith County Regional Planning versus Hiwassee Village Mobile Home Park. So that's the standard under which you're reviewing what's been presented tonight. I would also add that it's important for you to, whether you do this by making a motion, that you put clearly why you are taking the action to approve or not accept. Whatever action you take, it needs to be clear why you are taking that, whether it's on the recommendation of staff or based on the testimony that Mr. Driggers has presented. You need to be clear about why you are making the findings that you do.
Board members, any comments, questions?
I just have a real quick question for the city. As far as an automobile dealership, is there any kind of line between what kind of vehicle or the condition of the vehicles? Do they have to be operating? Do they have to be I mean, can they be rusted out? Is it pretty much if you put anything on that property, you can sell it?
I can't speak to the zoning aspect of it, but the ordinance says they're supposed to be tagged and operable. In a case of a sales lot, they wouldn't be tagged, but they certainly would need to be operable if you follow that definition.
I would also like to make a comment on this point. Just because you have a business license doesn't mean that it's necessarily a permitted use under the zoning ordinance. The licensing board may be different and have different requirements than what the local zoning requires. So that's a key distinction to make.
Understood.
Any other comments? So with that, I'm going to pull this all together as chairman, and I'm going to make the motion to agree with the staff and the building official to, in accordance with the letter November the 21st, 2024, from the city to the applicant of the reasons why that the decision, we're going to agree with the staff and concur that they are not following the rules and regulations as required in accordance with the 7 items as listed in the letter. That's my motion. Is that clear enough, legal?
That's clear to me, but can you address the grandfather issue, whether you find that use was a pre-existing use and subsequently changed? Can you draw that out of the testimony and the presentation of staff tonight, please?
So you're saying that they are not grandfathered in?
If that's the conclusion that you come to.
That's what I'm concluding, yes, that they're not grandfathered in.
Okay.
So that's the motion. Do we all understand that? I'll do a roll call vote. This is to obviously agree with my motion.
Aye, I agree with your motion.
Is there a motion and a second on the
Sorry,
floor?
you're correct.
Second it.
I made the motion, second. All right, here we go.
I agree with your motion, aye.
I agree with the motion, aye.
I agree.
I too. So with that, with number 3, request for a high variance being withdrawn, I'll call this meeting adjourned.